Shall we get started, Georgia, do we think?
I
Have
think so. Yeah, I
people?
think I've got a good few people on there now. Anyone joining, they can always jump in as we go.
Perfect. So in that case, let me just say another welcome to today's webinar. My name's Joe. I work in our implementation team at Volley. That means that we work specifically to onboard clients. So we're the dedicated team that work in this area, really. If you're currently using something like spreadsheets, you're making that transition to a Volley Group product, you'll be dealing with someone in the implementation team who will hold your hand through the entire thing. And I'm also here with Georgia.
Yeah, so I'm one of the client trainers at Volley. So, whereas Joe sort of does that initial conversations around you, how you're already using your spreadsheets and things like that, I'll then be showing you how to use Volley to the most, how to really get to the nitty-gritty of like replicating the things you might be doing externally or improving those processes. So we both in our roles here have quite a lot of spreadsheet horror stories, shall we say, on that one.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're going to talk you through today six different spreadsheets we've seen, or six different, should I say, areas of spreadsheets that we've seen and how a Volley Group product or products can improve that experience for you. So without further ado, let me just stop sharing this and let me take you over to the first thing I wanted to share, which is for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm going to talk to you about WorkRest, which is a product that Volley Group acquired about a year ago now. And what we have a lot of experience with when crew are moving over to WorkRest is leave tracking spreadsheets. So usually captains, chief officers, very often pursers have got some incredibly complex formulas trying their best to keep a track of who's on leave at what time, potentially with various versions of that document. And when we're moving crew over, they always explain to us just how much easier it is to use the WorkRest leave tracker. So leave is not the only product offered by WorkRest. We've also got the hours of rest product, and we're moving into the payroll realm, as I'm sure those of you who are Volley clients will already know. But I wanted to talk you through the leave tracker today and what that does and how it can replace your leave tracking spreadsheet. I'm not going to give you a full in-depth demonstration today, but we would love to give you one. So do just drop us a message on this chat if you'd like one, or reach out to our marketing team through any of the channels available. This is the Gantt chart. This is where, organized by department, you can see who is on leave when. So no more having to color different cells on Excel. It's all here for you. Like I said, filtered by department. You can also view it in either the year, quarter, or month view. So if you do want to really drill down, you can just have one single month. The different kinds of leave, and there are many to suit your requirements, are differently coloured on WorkRest. And you'll be pleased to hear it doesn't just track leave, it also tracks travel days. So if you can see those two white T's either side of this period, they're the travel days. And depending on whether they accrue leave or if they're neutral, you can also record that within WorkRest as well. Those travel days are also important because if you are a vessel that has a limit on how many flights crew can take in any given year, you can also track that through WorkRest, another spreadsheet saved. So when they're traveling, let's say they're using an outbound and inbound flight, you log that on WorkRest, that will then deduct 2 flights from their flight allowance. Adding leave really couldn't be simpler. You just click in and then you take through all the steps, outbound and inbound travel. Again, if you are reporting on travel days, the leave in the middle, and then you get a chance to review it before you schedule it. Obviously, we'd be more than happy to go through this in full depth if you'd like us to. Obviously, the end product of using the leave tracker, though, is the accrued leave balances. And obviously, they're also calculated totally automatically. Let's look at the summary page. And let me just go to September. Imagine I need this data for payroll. Here you've got, again, by department, all the information you could ever need. So all of the information that I've been inputting through the Gantt chart is now feeding into the calculation of our accrued leave balances. The accrued leave balance is the one which appears in bold at the very far right. Here is that balance. But you've not only got just that, so you've also got the number of days leave in the month, whether that was deductible leave or non-deductible, how many days leave has been accrued, salaried days, flights used, again, that flight balance, that's if you are reporting on number of flights, etc. You can do that in there. And all of this is available for you to export in a CSV file. Now, needless to say, in order for the system to be able to calculate those accrued leave balances, you do need to put in what's in effect a really simplified version of an SEA for each crew member. That's something that we always help clients with. So when we're doing that first demonstration, we'll show you how you can set up profile contracts within WordPress. So if you've got most people on either a time-for-time rotation and then perhaps a permanent 90-day annual leave contract, you don't need to do it manually each time. You can get 2 profile contracts, and then I can add that for all the people who are on time for time, and then I can add everybody else who's on that permanent 90-day annual leave contract. It really couldn't be simpler. No need to use your spreadsheet. All of it can be done within WordPress. So that's the first one I wanted to talk you through. I'm now going to hand over to Georgia to talk you through one of her spreadsheet horrors.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Joe. So yeah, I'm going to share with you now my screen on there, and we're going to take a look at the 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝗍𝒂 software. So if you've been using 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝒂 previously, or again, are a client of ours and you've heard about 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝒂, of course, the main use of Pinpoint has always been, pinpointing work that needs doing on the vessel, whether it's refit work, repairs, tracking things like that. So one that's maybe not so commonly known is the ability to have like your stock list or inventory on the Pinpoint system. So the way Pinpoint's designed is you essentially create yourself a site. You then can create your own sort of fields that you want to be filled in for each point. Of course, you have the vessel GA on there. So then that becomes a really bespoke product where you can have things beyond just the standard, this area has, damage and we're getting somebody on board to fix it and we're tracking that. Instead, now I've gone one step further and I'm saying not only have we got a site for that, all of our tracking of our repairs, I've now also got our stock list / inventory. So of course, if you're a bit more prepared as an admin or a captain on board, you probably would want to see them separate. But I've got my little integrated one that I've started just on here. So straight away, we can see here, I've got my standing dining table setup reference. So what this means then is if, say, I was a new chief stew on board and I'm learning, what the correct way and the perfect way to set up the table is and how it's done as standard, I can then come and take a look at this point here. I can then see our attached image of how we want it to look on there. So as you can see, it's definitely just a bespoke image there and not one off Google. But what we've done here is because I've created some extra bits like our tags, image of setup reference only. So it's making it really clear then from the outset that this is the reference, this is what we're looking towards. And then I've also got an extra field here saying the items needed. So then if I'm, the one that's going to be setting up for the first time, maybe, it's not something I'm super familiar with yet, I can use the app, of course, because 𝗵𝗵𝗿𝒂 has their own app. I can look at the point. If I'm in the galley, then getting all the plates and the bits I need to in order to take it to the table. Or maybe I'm completely new on board. This has been brought out by the chief stew. I'm just a standard stew and I've been setting it up and they've gone off and done, their duties and I'm setting it all up as per the reference when all of a sudden I drop a plate and it breaks or, chips. So unfortunately that plate's no longer in use. I'm not too sure where they keep the new plates. It's a very busy time in the kitchen because they're getting ready for the meal. So nice and easily, I'll come onto here. I'll take a look then at the large dining plates here. And then that tells me exactly where on the vessel it is. So I can see there it's in the galley and the location of it. And then also I've added an extra bit here to say in the galley, first top cupboard on the left of the pantry. And then we can see here that we've got some extra tags that I've created. So like they'll only be, custom ordered. They're not like on a repeat order like other items might be. A daily check required to make sure they're all okay. And then inventory value. So of course I've just broke one. I'm saying here we've got the minimum operational amount is 16. At the last count, of course, on there, I think it was 22. So I just need to then update this now to say it's only 21 because I've broke one. And again, that's something somebody can do on the phone, on the app, something they can do on the computer. And of course, this is like one very specific example of like a tableware setup. But if you can, imagine the possibilities then of items like, bar stock, bedroom setup, especially if you're chartering, and you have to reset it the same way each and every time. And to that expectation, no longer is the chief stew or the chief mate's memory the source of knowledge on there. It's then all in the system for everyone to see. Everyone's referring to the same information on there, and of course you can add as many users as you might need on there to see this information and update it, changing permissions and things, of course, so only certain people can make edits and changes and look off our custom fields. So much potential with that in the stock list and inventory area, and of course that is a spreadsheet that people typically use on board to keep track of things, pre-ordering. But like I say, with the ability to have the custom fields, with the ability to have the custom tags, you can have any information in here that you would normally have on the spreadsheet. And not only is it easier to see because everything's like highlightable, it's also going to tell you then where on the vessel it is. So whereas your spreadsheet's just going to, have a rough reference, maybe typed out, like say in the pantry, this is going to say you actually specifically here, this is what we're referring to. No more miscommunications and things like that if somebody's referring to an outdated spreadsheet on that one. So a real time saver with there, one that maybe people don't think of first when they think of Pinpoint Works, but definitely a potential time saver and definitely spreadsheet time saver on that one. Back to Joe now, who's going to show us some more things in the Voly system.
Thanks, Georgia. So hopefully now you can see my screen again. So here I am in the Voly financial platform. So one of the other spreadsheets that we see an awful lot of relate to managing suppliers. So not only the supplier details, also things like invoices against suppliers and that running balance, effectively the unpaid invoices balance against the suppliers. Needless to say, that can all be managed within Voly. So what I wanted to do is talk you through a few of those features. Let's navigate first to the suppliers tab. It might, as it is in this example, be called the contacts tab. That's if you're reporting on your sales income as well as your expenditure, in which case you'll have customers as well as suppliers. Let's click into there and let's find one I prepared earlier, which is called Blue Water Books and Charts. And what I wanted to talk you through first is obviously from the suppliers page or contact page, you can see some of that key information like the currency that supplier invoices in, the B here to show that I've got beneficiary details in. That means I can make a direct payment right from my Voly Money account to Blue Water, not a problem at all. No external bank accounts needed. The number of invoices I've ever added against this supplier, and then the number that are unpaid, as well as that all important running balance. So I know we currently owe them $714. That's one spreadsheet saved already. What I really wanted to show you is if you click into the supplier, obviously you'll have all of that information and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to talk you through the supplier details area because when you click into here, this is what we see time and time again, people having a spreadsheet for. You can input all of the supplier information you have within this area. So the key things like the supplier name, contact numbers, website, their VAT rate, VAT number, as well as contact details for them and an address. The beauty is you can also use comments here if you'd like to. You can add comments as a sort of audit trail. So rather than on the Excel spreadsheet, you're not quite sure who's updated what, you can have a convention where you can add in a comment there to say, Joe McBride updated blah, 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 because I got an email from Jane saying X and Y and Z had changed. My favorite feature though on the supplier details area by far are these two fields here, the email address for the remittance advice and the purchase order. If you input an email in here and then you tick automatically send RA and automatically send PO, every time that you make a Voly money payment to this supplier, they will automatically be emailed to this email address here, the remittance advice. No need to download it as a PDF, add it to your email and then send it. Same goes for your purchase order. As soon as it's generated, gets emailed straight away to this email. No need to download it and do it. That's an absolute time saver, time and time again. Supplier terms is also extremely useful. It means that if you do have a regular supplier terms with a supplier that differs from the standard 1 month, when I add an invoice now, it will default a due date to 10 days from today because I've already inputted this in there. So please stop recording all of this information in a spreadsheet and go ahead and start recording it here. Obviously, this is where you'll see all of the transaction information, those invoices, credit notes, etc. relating to the supplier. You can also start to make a payment from here. You can also do that obviously from our unpaid invoices area. But effectively, there is no need to manage your suppliers, be it their details, be it the unpaid invoices total from a spreadsheet. All of that can be done within Voly, and it's all entirely integrated. So then when you add a transaction against this supplier from a different page, obviously it will automatically appear here in the suppliers page as well. So that's another way that you can save an awful lot of time. Let me hand back to Georgia for the next feature.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. And I just want to take this opportunity to just remind you all, if you have any questions about anything we're going through, want to ask any questions around any spreadsheets that you might be having, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go through our final few items on here. So my next one is also on the Voly system, but of course slightly different with it being orange. And those of you who have been with Voly for a while will know this is of course the APA site. So APA and charter management is a huge one that is still very much we use spreadsheets. That's nearly every time somebody on boards with us using with APA will say, you know, how have you previously been managing it? And it's always a spreadsheet. So with the APA system, everything has the benefits of the Voly platform, but it's kept completely separate. So there's no worrying about, oh, is this the owner's funds? Is this the guest funds? It's all completely separate set of cards, separate accounts, all nice and separate from your operational spend. So that's the one benefit, of course. The second benefit of this is then everything is tracked almost automatically. So when you have your funds landed into the account, all you'll need to do is come onto your APA balances here, click new charter, let the system know who this person is, how much APA they have, and where the money's come from. Then when the funds are there, just attach the two, and then you're ready to go. So then you've immediately got a balance showing you how much is remaining throughout the charter. So now you might be thinking, well, at the minute on the spreadsheet, you know, I get all the receipts from the crew as they're spending things. I add it to my spreadsheet. Now that leaves a lot of room for error. Are the crew going to reliably give you the receipt on time? Are you having to chase them for the information? If you're a purser on board, are you spending 90% of your time asking, have they made transactions? Have they updated things? Well, no more with the Voly system, because on the banking page straight away, if a crew member uses the Voly prepaid cards, which is of course loaded by the relevant person who you want to nominate for that. It's not the crew adding their own funds. It's a person you nominate to do that role, and they're in charge then of the funds available to the crew. And then on the crew cards, you'll see straight away, as we can see on this one, unprocessed items. So they go to the supermarket, they make a purchase. Straight away, you can see that there. There's no, oh, I need to add it still. Oh, I need to see how much it was. Straight away, the value of the purchase, where the purchase was, and the date is there. And then whether it's the crew member or again, you want to have a trusted person that's responsible for it, goes on and they then add on their information, you know, around which charter it relates to, where the receipt is. You're not having to keep then a big stack of receipts at the end of the charter. You can get rid of them because they're saved securely on the system, and you're able to share all of that information to the guest at the end of the charter. So of course, with the use of the cards, it's nice and all integrated. Cash, again, everyone can log their relevant cash spend. So if you are somewhere that's cash heavy, no worries, they can add the receipt image, the spend on there. And then moving on to the reports, which is really the highlight of the APA system, is you run your APA report, you choose who you're running it for, you view the report, you can choose which currency you're seeing it in. So if it's a different currency that the guest wants it in, you can convert it over. You've got your initial starting balance, or then the expenditure, any invoices that have been added, and as well with invoices, you're not having to make the payments there and then. As soon as you add an invoice on the system, whether they're paid or unpaid, it's a deduction. So you're not still having to think, right, in the account I've still got this much, but I need to remember I've still got to pay that invoice we've committed to. As long as it's in the system against the guest, it's there ready to go. And as always, you can download the information out of the system, so it's not gate kept, it's not locked in there. You can then straight away at the end of the charter or anytime you want, export it into an Excel. If you're still really fond of the Excel format, you can export it, and a zip file will then give everyone all of those receipts as well. So like I said, it's just one file emailed over to them rather than a whole stack, a spreadsheet that you've had to spend hours and hours on. It's all there in the system, easy for you to see on that one. So that's it for time saving in terms of the APA spreadsheet. Back to Joe for his final time saving tip on spreadsheets.
Thanks, Georgia. I think one of the more satisfying areas, isn't it, Georgia, of our role is specifically the APA and the horror stories we hear about 2 a.m. charter reports in Excel and clutching around for receipts that have been lost inevitably. And that's one of the really, really useful parts of the Volley platform, obviously, is also using the bespoke APA app, which means separate to the operational app, it means you can log those transactions, as Georgia said, in real time, upload the receipts, and it's all done for you. Nice and early night on charter rather than going on and on until you've got the Excel spreadsheet. Let me just share my screen again then. Hopefully you can see this again, because what I'm sharing now is the Volley operational platform once again. Another spreadsheet that we see all the time relates to budgets and budget reporting. And budgets is something that you are able to track, of course, through Volley. Let's navigate first of all to the budgets tab, where I want to talk to you about how you can add your own budget and edit it within Voly. Within Voly, there are two kinds of budget. I'm just going to pull up our imaginary 25-26 budget to demonstrate the classic kind of budget, really. This is your operational month-to-month budget. So this is your regular expenditure done by category. That's the expenditure categories that you have uploaded into Voly. And this is where you're able to track, again, that operational month-on-month expenditure. But this isn't the only kind of budget you can have on Voly. We can also have what we call named budgets, and that's for a specific thing, a specific occurrence. Let's say a big refit, an owner's trip, or something similar. So if we now look at our 2024 refit, which happened last year on our imaginary vessel, I've also got a budget in here for that refit. So this means that I am able to track simultaneously the operational month-to-month budget with the specific costs associated with that refit. Because let's say I don't want to be tagging my expenditure to month-on-month operational costs when actually it's all capital purchases for my refit. In terms of adding your budget into Voly so that you are able to come here and have a look at your values if you'd like to, you can import it in a CSV file. You can export the budget as a template, copy your numbers over from whatever you've been using, your Excel, dare I say it, and then you can upload it back into the platform. But once you want to make some amendments, if you just click on edit, you're then able to go in and actually add those amounts in there direct from the platform. Again, I think this is a really good time saver, because rather than me editing my Excel file and then sending it to Georgia, who makes amends and then sends it back to me, we're having version 12, 13 of the budget when it's all agreed. We know what that time of year is like. Here, you can have the relevant people with access to the budget, the permission to edit, and then when you're done, you can also lock the budget down if you'd like to, which means that then nobody, if you click lock and password it, is able to edit your budget. So if you're very keen for that to be locked down, you can do that as well. So that's how you can keep a track of your budgeted amounts. Not only that, the budget reporting is really useful on Voly. So let's navigate away from the budgets tab into the reports tab. And I'd like to run the budget to actual for you, which is obviously a classic report. And it means that you're able to compare, let's do it, for example, for this refit, the budgeted amount for each category for that refit against the actual expenditure. It'll give you the variance and it'll look red if it's not happy about the amount that's been spent on a particular category. So just to make you aware, it's not only the tracking of the budget figures, it's also the live data. So like Georgia said, for the APA side, just like that on the operational, crew are adding live transactions in, they're spending, they're adding invoices, we're paying them. It's all updating here in real time and it's there for me to export. So rather than having to keep a track of things on Excel like my budget and then my expenditure against that budgeted amount, I can do all of that within Voly as well. So that's another way that we hope we can move you away from doing Excel using Voly. A lot of our clients now are actually formulating their budgets directly in the platform. So they've even removed that step. They'll have a meeting and they'll all sit round with Voly and they'll input the amounts. Obviously, the beauty of the budget to actual is you can look at your actual spend for those categories for last financial year and use that as the basis for your budget and the difficult conversations that may be necessary on board when you're then looking at your future budget. So again, if you are looking at a budget spreadsheet and thinking, oh no, now's your time to have a chat with our team and we'd love to talk you through this. Let me hand over to Georgia for one more and then we'll round off the webinar.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. So yeah, this is our final, not necessarily spreadsheet time saver. It's more of a spreadsheet confusion saver, I would say, because it sort of combines two areas. So of course, let's say you're using Pinpoint and Voly, or maybe you're not using either, but you're trying to track your works and your repairs and then the charter spend as well. So of course, there's it's sort of a gap between the two. So you have a guest on board, they spilled a glass of wine, as we all know happens, onto some white furniture, white carpet. Where do we put that spend then? Because we might not have a final invoice for it. We might be trying to track it on Pinpoint because we want to manage our works. And that's where we have our Projects Lite module. So Voly Projects, for those of you who aren't aware, is our integration between the Pinpoint platform and our Voly platform. And the Projects Lite module is the APA equivalent. So right now we're offering Projects Lite for free with any APA account. So if you already have Voly APA and you want to explore Pinpoint, now's the perfect time to explore it through damages because it's time saving and it's free at the moment as well. So how it works then is, let's say we go onto our Pinpoint thing. So we've got then our Pinpoint app open. We've got our chief stew or whoever's responsible for logging this damage, taking the picture of the item or damage here, for example. They can then add the point. So if it's a new point, they can then click new point, fill in all the relevant information. Again, custom fields, so we can say exactly what we want to see. They can come and then select on here where on the vessel that damage is for everyone to see, as we're going to track the repair and works here in Pinpoint. And then on the Voly side, what we'll see is that we'll pull through straight away into our little projects tab. So we click into projects, and then we're going to see nice and easily on there our wine stain on carpet, the description that's associated to it, who's created it on there, and then also any other information we want to pull through on that one. So that's sort of step one, because of course now if you're only a Voly user, you know, your captain, you're checking everything on Voly, the crew are responsible for Pinpoint, or even if you're an admin and you're just checking things, you can see it straight away. But then also you've got the ability to then select it and then add it straight to an invoice. So as I mentioned previously, invoices on Voly, on the Voly platform, when you add the invoice on the platform, even if you're not ready to pay it, you can have, you know, a sort of hold invoice where it's just saying, you know, it's a temporary one with the quoted amount. We could add a cross charge and say we're paying back the vessel for it because they're inevitably going to be responsible for the spend. But fundamentally, what this means is then on the Pinpoint side, you're going to know straight away if it's already been invoiced. So if I come here and I say I've been running my Smith charter, so I'm going to then filter and I only want to see then cost centers associated to Smith, because the beauty of the integration is, of course, that on the Pinpoint side, we can say it's for this charter. You're not having to wait until it comes to Voly. You can say straight away. So then if you're responsible for the invoice, there's a crew coming on board to fix all of these different things, maybe not the broken wine glass, but definitely the stained carpet from wine and then the spilt wine on a different carpet. We can then click add invoice, tell the system then if we want to use a value from Pinpoint. So if there has been an invoiced amount, we can add that in there. If not, we can skip it. It's up to you, and it is all customizable. So we continue on. And then pulled through is the relevant category that we've selected on Pinpoint, the cost center, the point it's related to, and then also, again, if you have selected a relevant cost, that costing as well on that one. So then you just put in your values, fill in your information up top and save it. Straight away then on your report, it's going to deduct it from my Smith's remaining total. And then over on the Pinpoint side, you're going to see an extra section in here showing our invoice total amount. So you know it's been invoiced, you know it's all in hand. There's no longer that disconnect between whoever's responsible for organising the repair and whoever's responsible for invoicing the repair. There's no disconnect between the two, especially if you've been using an Excel spreadsheet for both. You know, it's no longer, oh, have I accidentally double charged for them? Have I accidentally, you know, not charged for it? And there's loads of potential between the two there where it could be going wrong. And having the projects integration using both Pinpoint and Voly together with them talking to each other, absolute game changer in terms of information. Everyone's seeing the same information, one version of the truth, as we like it here at Voly, and all the information's there for anybody that needs the relevant access to see and have information too. So I know I've said it about 3 times now, but it is free. Take it up if you use an APA. Feel free to give it a go. If you don't like it, let us know. We can see what works better for you. If you do like it, then of course we can look at further potential with you using Pinpoint and the integrated accounts on there. But that's essentially it for us on the webinar today. I mean, there's loads more areas, of course, where the variety of products now that we manage would be able to save you time regarding spreadsheets. When we had the polls out on the social media channels, there was, you know, hundreds of spreadsheets being used in some cases. If we had the time, we'd of course go through them all with you. But unfortunately, they're somewhat of like the top 6 that we would say that save you the most time, easy to start getting used today. And if you have any questions or want more information about anything we've been through, as always, get in touch with your account manager. If you're not already a client, get in touch with our marketing team, and we'll always be happy to go through more conversations, more demos and things like that to get things that work for you and help things run a lot smoother on the boats than they might currently be doing on there. But if anybody has any questions, now's the time to pop them in the chat on there.
Yeah, do let us know if you've got anything, although like Georgia said, We're more than happy to give you a more in-depth demo if you have seen anything that interests you, particularly I think around that leave tracker, around that APA damages, the Volley Projects Light side. Do give us a shout because we'd love to give you a personalised demo. You can show us your spreadsheets and we can solve the problems for you. Yes.
Absolutely. I think there's just one there asking Joe about how to arrange a leave call, a call around leave and a demo on that. So what would be the best way for them to do that?
So please do feel free to drop me an email. My email is joem@volley.com, and then we can handle it straight from there. I can put you in touch with our sales team. That goes for anything that you've been interested in. It's usually easier if the feedback comes to Georgia and me, and then we can triage it and send it to the right person. It might be one of us, it might not be. So do feel free. That's joem, all one word, @volley.com. Do drop us an email. Other than that, we will be looking forward to seeing you on our next webinar, which will be in around about a month's time. Unless, Georgia, you've got anything else to say?
No, don't. I'll be on the next webinar as well. So, if you enjoy seeing me tell you about the system, it's always a good selling point.
There
But
we
yeah,
go.
the next webinar is November. Then for us on the Volley side, the final webinar will be in December, which I am trying to get Joe to jump on a Christmas jumper with me. So we'll see.
There you go. So tune in December for Christmas Jumpers Round 2. We did it last year and it was a
We
great
did.
webinar, rounding up the year in Volley. So let's stop taking up any more of your time. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and thank you very much for joining us. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Bye.
bye everyone. Bye. Bye.